When I first took the job as a firefighter in Flathead County, Montana, I thought I was leaving the chaos of city life behind for something simpler, something cleaner. But simplicity can be deceptive. Out here, surrounded by endless trees and dark mountain roads, you find out real quick that fire isn't the only thing that can kill you. I arrived in the late summer. The mountains were still lush, the air crisp, and the fire risk high. My transfer came after 5 years in Chicago, dealing with urban blazes and the occasional meth lab explosion. I thought I'd seen it all. That illusion didn't last long. My first day at Station 17, nestled near the outskirts of Kalispell, felt off right from the beginning. The building was old, almost too old for active duty, with weather-beaten siding and a bell that looked like it hadn't rung since the 50s. The captain, a wiry old man named Briggs, greeted me at the door. His handshake was firm, but his eyes were tired, haunted even. "You read the handbook?" he asked after the usual introductions. "Yeah," I replied. "Most of it." He nodded slowly, then leaned in. "Good, but there's another set of rules you won't find in that book. We'll go over them tonight." That evening, once the sun dipped behind the mountains and the shadows grew long and heavy, the rest of the crew gathered around the kitchen table. There were four others: Mark, a burly ex-Marine; Jules, the only woman in the unit with eyes like storm clouds; Deeks, the rookie even newer than me; and Harris, the silent one who stared too long at things that weren't there. Briggs dropped a small black notebook onto the table. It was worn, its edges singed, and pages curled from heat. He opened it to a dog-eared page and began to read. "Station 17 operates under federal fire protocol and local emergency regulations, but due to unique conditions in this region, the following unofficial guidelines must be followed without exception." I raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. "Rule 1, he continued. "If a fire breaks out in Zone D after midnight, respond, but never enter the tree line. You can douse the perimeter, but do not, under any circumstance, cross into the woods." "Why?" I asked. Briggs looked at me. "You'll hear things. You'll see people who need saving. Don't listen. They're not real. If you go in, you won't come back the same. If you come back at all." Deeks laughed nervously. "You're messing with us, right?" Briggs ignored him and flipped the page. "Rule 2. If we get a call from 426 Granite Road, we go fully suited, with respirators, no matter what dispatch says. The house burned down in 1987. It always burns down. But sometimes someone calls for help from inside. Don't engage. Spray it and wait for it to vanish." "Vanish?" I asked. "Like smoke," Jules said, barely audible. Briggs went on. "Rule 3. If you hear tapping on the windows of the engine while en route to a fire, don't look. Keep your eyes forward. If you make eye contact, you'll start seeing them in mirrors." By now, I was sure this was some twisted hazing ritual. I looked around, waiting for someone to crack a smile. No one did. Briggs closed the book. "That's enough for tonight. You'll learn the rest as you go." I didn't sleep much that night. Whether it was the eeriness of the rules or the silence of the mountains, I couldn't tell. Around 2 a.m., the alarm blared through the station. "Brush fire, Zone D," the dispatcher crackled. Mark geared up fast. "You're with me, rookie." I followed him into Engine 4. The drive took about 20 minutes, winding through dark, narrow roads. The trees pressed close like they wanted to swallow the vehicle whole. When we got there, the fire was already visible, flickering orange deep within the forest. I grabbed the hose. "We going in?" Mark grabbed my wrist. "Stay on the line. Perimeter only." I nodded, remembering Rule 1. As I sprayed the tree line, I heard it, crying. It was faint at first, just a soft whimper carried on the wind. Then it grew louder, more desperate. A child's voice. "Help! Help me, please!" I froze. Mark dropped his hose and walked toward me, his face pale. "You heard it, didn't you?" he said. I nodded. "Don't move, don't speak, just spray the line." The voice came again, louder now. "I'm burning, please!" It felt wrong not to act. Every instinct I had screamed at me to run in and save whoever was trapped. I took one step forward. Mark slammed me against the truck. "Don't you dare!" "But someone's in there." He looked me dead in the eyes. "That's not someone." Just then the fire surged as if reacting to our argument. Flames shot up, licking the tops of the pine trees, and from within the fire I saw it. A figure. Small, child-sized, arms outstretched, no face, just a burning black shape. Mark yanked me back. Eyes down, stay focused. I obeyed, but my hands were shaking. We held the perimeter for nearly an hour before the fire died out as suddenly as it had started. The figure vanished. Back at the station, I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd seen. Was it a hallucination? Smoke induced psychosis? Or was this place truly cursed? I approached Jules in the locker room later. Have you seen it too? She didn't look up. We all have. Who is it? No one knows, she replied. Some say it's a child who died in a fire here decades ago. Others say it's something older, something that wears sorrow like a mask. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to tell myself they were all just messing with me. But the look in her eyes told me this was no joke. The next morning, Briggs handed me a clean black notebook, identical to the one he read from. Start your own, he said. You'll need it. I flipped through the empty pages. Something was scribbled faintly on the inside cover, barely visible in the right light. Fire remembers. I closed the book, heart pounding. I thought of the child's voice, the faceless figure, the unnatural blaze. This wasn't just about firefighting anymore. This was survival, and I had a feeling I hadn't seen the worst of it yet. A week passed after the Zone D fire, and life at Station 17 returned to what passed as normal, at least on the surface. I kept waking up in the middle of the night, heart racing, the phantom sound of a child screaming echoing in my ears. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the fire and the figure inside it. I tried to tell myself it was just adrenaline, a side effect of exhaustion and nerves. But the feeling that something was watching me, even in the daylight, never left. The next emergency call came on a Monday evening. The air was still, the sky overcast with low hanging clouds threatening rain but never delivering. Dispatch came in with a single line: Fire sighted at 426 Granite Road. Every head in the station snapped to Briggs. His jaw tensed. Suit up, he said quietly. Respirators, full gear. Deke scoffed. Seriously, it's probably just a prank. Briggs stared him down. Full gear. No debate. You'll thank me later. I suited up like the rest, this time taking the respirators seriously. My hands trembled slightly as I snapped the seals into place. We rolled out in Engine 2. I rode with Jules and Harris. The drive was shorter than to Zone D, but somehow the tension was heavier. As we turned onto Granite Road, I saw it, just as described. A two-story colonial-style house sat on a weed-choked lawn. The structure looked brand new, untouched by flame. Curtains fluttered in the windows. A porch light glowed. There was no smoke, but I saw the flames in the reflection of the windows. Inside, the place was burning. There it is, Jules said. Same as last time. We pulled up. Briggs gave the usual orders. Exterior only. No one crosses the property line. Spray, watch, wait. Wait for what? Deeks asked. Briggs looked at the house. For it to disappear. I thought he was being dramatic. Until it happened. We deployed hoses and aimed at the base of the house. The moment the water hit the walls, the fire inside flared up, but the exterior remained perfect. The windows showed people moving. I swear I saw a woman screaming at us from behind the glass, her face melted and flickering. Do you see her? I asked Jules. She nodded. Don't look too long. She gets clearer when you stare. A door creaked open. Harris took one step forward. I grabbed his arm. What are you doing? He didn't answer. His mask was fogging from the inside. She's crying, he said. I think she knows me. Briggs barked. All of you, fall back now. We dropped the hoses and retreated 50 feet. Then the house flickered. Not burned. Flickered, like a hologram with bad reception. And in 3 seconds it vanished. Lawn and all. Just dry dirt remained where the house had stood. Deeks looked like he was going to be sick. What the hell was that? He whispered. Call it a recurring nightmare, Briggs said, pulling off his mask. It started appearing about 12 years ago. Same house, same fire, same scream, every few weeks. But how? Is it a projection? No, Jules said. It's something else, something old. This land, it's infected with something. And that house, it's just one symptom. Back at the station, Deeks broke. He slammed his locker shut and shouted, This is insane. We're firefighters, not ghostbusters. No one said it would make sense, Briggs said calmly. You want to quit? Go ahead. No one's stopping you. But you walk out of here without learning the rest of the rules, don't expect to last long. Deke stormed out without another word. That night, I added a note to my black book. 426 Granite Road. Do not enter. It burns from the inside. The fire is not real, but the damage is. I was starting to believe the rules weren't just old superstitions. They were survival tactics, and I feared the worst was still waiting. 2 days later, something changed. Briggs pulled me aside after lunch. "We're going to the lookout," he said. "Time you saw it." "The what?" "You'll understand." We drove north, past Kalispell, up into the mountains. The roads narrowed until we were on little more than a dirt trail winding through pines. Eventually, we reached a clearing with a tall wooden tower at its center, a fire lookout post. The structure was ancient, thick beams, ladder access, and glass windows all around. From the top, you could see the whole valley, trees for miles, rivers, mountain ridges, beautiful and eerily quiet. Briggs handed me binoculars. "Look out over the north tree line, just past the ridge." I raised the binoculars and scanned the area. At first, I saw nothing but forest, then movement, smoke, a small, steady plume rising in the middle of nowhere. "I see smoke." "Now wait," I stared, holding my breath, and then the smoke moved. Not drifted, moved. It slithered between the trees like a living thing. It had a form, long, twisting, tendrils swirling like it was sniffing the air. Searching. Briggs took the binoculars back. "That's what you're really fighting out here." "What is it?" "We call it the Ember Shade. We don't know what it is. Some think it's a spirit. Others say it's a creature made of smoke and memory. It feeds off fires, grief, trauma." "It's alive?" "Oh, it's more than alive. It's aware. It learns, adapts." I didn't know what to say. I sat in silence as the breeze stirred the treetops. A hawk circled overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. Briggs stood. "It's been more active lately. Fires starting without cause, houses reappearing, voices in the radios." I turned to him. "So what do we do?" "We follow the rules. We try to contain the damage. And when the time comes, we pray." We drove back to the station as dusk fell. The air had that heavy, charged feel to it, like the land was holding its breath. Later that night, I got up to get some water. The station was silent. As I passed the radio room, I heard it. A faint crackle, then a voice. Small, weak. "Please help me. I'm trapped in the fire." I froze. It was the same child's voice from Zone D. Then something new. A whisper layered underneath it. "Not a child. Not even human. I see you now." My skin went cold. The radio snapped off by itself. I backed away, heart pounding, and fled to my bunk. But sleep didn't come. Because now I knew the thing in the fire had noticed me, and it wasn't done yet. The next morning, Station 17 felt wrong. The air inside the building was dense, like smoke clung to the walls, though no fire had touched it. Everyone moved slower. Faces looked pale and sunken. Harris barely spoke a word, and Jules hadn't touched her coffee, something unheard of. Briggs gathered us around after morning gear checks. He didn't look good. Eyes bloodshot, hands shaking, his voice cracked when he spoke. "Deeks is gone," he said. Silence. "What do you mean gone?" I asked, a pit forming in my stomach. "Sheriff's deputy found his car near the Zone D line, engine running, driver's door open, no sign of him." I swallowed. "Did they go into the woods?" "They know better," Briggs said. "But they heard something. Screaming. Said it sounded like him." No one said it, but we all thought it. Deeks broke Rule 1. Vast, he heard the voices, and he went in. Mark crossed himself. Harris looked away. Jules muttered, "Another one." Briggs cleared his throat. "We're going to search the perimeter at first light. We're not going in. You hear anything? You ignore it. You see movement. You report it. You do not chase." Something about the way he said that told me this wasn't the first time one of their own had vanished. That night, I barely slept. My dreams were full of smoke, black, crawling smoke that slipped under doors and whispered my name. I woke up drenched in sweat, and my room smelled faintly of ash. I opened the window, hoping it was just in my head. But outside, I saw it, a faint glow in the woods beyond the ridge, like a fire, and something standing just outside the tree line, watching. At dawn, we rolled out to Zone D in Engine 3 with a backup truck trailing. The mist hung heavy over the forest, and the trees looked darker than they should have in the early light. Jules led the perimeter sweep, while Mark kept eyes on the thermal scanner. Nothing but cold spots. I found something odd near a scorched stump. A boot. It was partially buried in the dirt, laces undone. Same model as the ones we wore. I called it in. Briggs came over and stared at it for a long time. Then he knelt, brushed away the leaves, and pulled something else from the earth. Deke's respirator. Completely intact. It had been melted slightly, like it had been exposed to intense heat. But there was no fire here, nothing burning, not for days. How long do things last out here? I asked quietly. Briggs didn't answer. He just dropped the respirator in a bag and stood up. Back to the station. Now. We didn't argue. That evening, Rule 4 was added to my black book. If someone goes missing in the forest, they are not the same when found. If they return, quarantine them. Math. If they don't, do not search. Jules found me later, sitting alone in the garage bay. She offered me a cigarette. I didn't smoke, but I took it anyway. Just holding something felt grounding. You know, she said softly, I saw my brother in the woods once. I looked at her. Your brother? He died in a house fire 10 years ago. I saw him near the Zone D tree line, just standing there. He waved at me, smiled. She paused, but his mouth was on the wrong side of his face. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. She exhaled smoke into the cold air. This place gets inside you, makes you doubt your own memories. You start wondering what's real. What keeps you here? I asked. Jules gave a small, bitter laugh. Someone's got to keep the fire from spreading. Not the flames, the thing inside them. Later that night, the power flickered, twice. Then the radio crackled on its own. No voice this time, just breathing, slow, heavy, as if something was leaning close to the microphone. Harris reached to turn it off. Don't, Briggs said from the hallway. Let it play out. We all froze as the breathing continued for nearly a minute. Then a new sound emerged, scraping like nails on metal. It stopped. Then words, a man's voice, ragged, wet. You left me. We all looked at each other. Mark whispered, Deeks. But it wasn't Deeks. It couldn't be. Because the voice that came next was layered, like 10 versions of him speaking at once, overlapping. I'm still burning. You're next. The radio went dead. Briggs turned to me. New rule, he said grimly. Write it down. I flipped open my book with shaking hands. Rule 5. If a missing crew member speaks over the radio after disappearance, do not respond. The fire has learned to use their voices. The next day, everything seemed calm. Clear skies, cool air, no fire reports until midnight. The alarms went off. Structure fire, south slope. We rushed out in full gear, hearts racing. But as we approached, it wasn't a structure. It was a person, a man, standing in the middle of the road, engulfed in flames, but not moving, not screaming, just staring. His body burned, skin blackened, mouth open in a silent howl, yet his eyes locked with mine through the windshield. Jules slammed the brakes. Is that? No, Briggs said firmly. Stay in the truck. Do not engage. I couldn't stop staring. The figure didn't fall, mask didn't run. The flames didn't consume him. They just existed around him, like they belonged to him. The heat was unbearable even through the glass. Suddenly, he stepped forward. The flames went out, instantly, leaving behind nothing, not a body, not even smoke, just scorched asphalt where he had stood. Briggs finally spoke. It's getting stronger, showing itself, testing us. I sat in silence, my knuckles white on the dashboard. What happens when it stops testing? I asked. He looked at me, eyes hollow. Then it starts hunting. The next few days were unusually quiet. No calls, no strange sightings, no flickers in the radio feed. But it didn't feel like peace. It felt like silence before a storm. Briggs stayed locked in his office most of the time, flipping through old call logs, staring at faded maps of the forest. Jules barely spoke to anyone, eyes sunken with sleep deprivation. Harris started humming to himself constantly, low, tuneless sounds that only stopped when someone said his name. I kept checking the tree line from my bunk window at night, waiting, watching. The glow hadn't returned, but I had the constant gnawing feeling that it was close. On the fourth night, something happened. I was on shift with Mark, handling inventory in the back garage when the fire alarm buzzed. Not the station alarm, but the one mounted above the engine bay. That alarm only went off when there was a breach in the vehicle bay doors. We both froze. Briggs didn't call anything in, right? I asked. Nope, no drills tonight. We stepped toward the bay slowly, flashlights raised. Everything was still, no movement, no wind. Then the alarm buzzed again. One sharp beep, and the main garage door began to rise by itself. A burst of freezing air swept in. Fog rolled across the floor like a living thing. We couldn't see more than a few feet outside, just swirling white and the shadows of trees beyond the driveway. What the hell? Mark whispered. Then came the footsteps, heavy, measured, crunching gravel, getting closer. A silhouette emerged through the fog. A figure in full firefighter gear, helmet, coat, oxygen tank slung on its back. It stepped into the light. Jules came sprinting into the bay behind us, shotgun in hand. Don't move, she shouted at the figure. But it didn't listen. It just kept walking forward slowly, like it had nowhere to be. Mark stepped in front of it. Identify yourself, right now. The figure stopped a few feet away and tilted its head like a curious animal. Then it raised one hand and removed its helmet. What was underneath wasn't a face, not really. It was charred black with teeth made of cracked porcelain. The eyes were wet, glossy, and wrong, too wide, too human, and too familiar. It was Deeks, or something that wore him. Help me, it rasped, its voice like embers being dragged across a chalkboard. I'm still in there. Jules didn't wait. She fired. The blast hit the thing square in the chest and knocked it back. But there was no blood, no scream. It hit the ground with a dull thud and disintegrated into ash. Thick black ash that blew away into the fog, piece by piece, leaving no trace behind. The alarm stopped. The door slowly lowered. Silence returned. Briggs walked in moments later, too late to see it. We told him everything. He didn't seem surprised. This has happened before, he said. Every time someone breaks the rules, the fire keeps part of them, sends it back. He pulled out a rusted tin box from under his coat and opened it. Inside were 10 metal tags, identification numbers, some burned, others stained with soot. Those are our ghosts, he said. The next day, I found something in my locker. A burned Polaroid photo tucked into my helmet. I don't know who put it there. It showed a group of firefighters in front of Station 17, black and white, smiling faces. But in the back row, just barely visible, was a dark figure behind the group, watching. And behind that figure, the faint image of a house engulfed in flames. 426 Granite Road. I shoved the photo into my book, heart pounding. That night, a new rule was added to the black notebook. Rule 6. If someone you know returns from the fire, ask what year it is. If they get it wrong, run. If they get it right, burn the photo. The storm came 3 days later. It rolled in with no warning, no news alert, no radar detection. Just thunder shaking the valley and rain that smelled like smoke. At 2 a.m., the radio came alive with a dispatch call. Multiple fires reported in the forest west of South Slope. Emergency response requested immediately. Mark glanced at Briggs. This could be real. Briggs nodded. It is. But it's also something else. All of you, gear up, but follow the rules. We loaded 2 engines and took the trail through the ravine. I drove with Harris in the passenger seat. He kept humming that same strange tune under his breath, fingers twitching against his leg. As we reached the forest edge, we saw the glow. Fires, at least 4, burning in perfect circles. Not random, not natural. Symbols burned into the earth. Mark's voice came over the radio. These fires, they're arranged, like some kind of ritual. Suddenly, a scream cut through the night. Female. Close. I swung my flashlight and saw her, a woman, barefoot, clothes tattered, stumbling out of the woods toward the truck. Help me, she cried. My baby's in the fire, please. I opened the door, ready to jump out. Harris grabbed my arm. No, that's not her. What do you mean? That's my sister. She died in 2009. My blood turned cold. The woman kept approaching, reaching toward the door. Please help me. Then, as the light hit her face fully, I saw it. Her skin was translucent. Beneath it, I could see embers glowing. She smiled and vanished into smoke. I sat back, stunned. A voice crackled over the radio. Briggs, back to base. Full retreat. The forest is testing boundaries, and we're losing. We turned around. The fire forming shapes behind us in the trees. Faces, hands, clawed things that followed just outside the light beams of our headlights. And then we saw it. In the distance. Towering. Massive. A pillar of fire shaped like a man. Eyes like coals. Mouth dripping smoke. Watching us. I didn't need Briggs to tell me what it was. The ember shade. It had taken form. It had been hiding in fire long enough. Now it wanted out. We raced back to Station 17 with the sirens off. No one spoke. Not even Briggs. The ember shade silhouette burned itself into our vision. We all saw it. No one could pretend anymore that this was a job rooted in science, protocol, and flame retardant suits. This wasn't about putting out fire. It was about keeping something ancient from breaking through. And we were failing. The station was dark when we returned. No power, no backup generator hum, just silence, and the faint smell of soot. Jules unlocked the side door and went in first, flashlight sweeping. The beam caught on something smeared across the floor. A black, oily streak. Harris spoke softly behind her. That's not oil. Mark gripped the axe strapped to his back. That's melted rubber. The smell confirmed it. Burnt boots. Someone or something had walked through the building with soles made of scorched human flesh. Briggs moved past us and checked the radio room. Empty. But the radio was playing. Not dispatch chatter, not breathing. Music. A warbling 1940s jazz tune crackling like it was coming from an old vinyl. Then the music slowed, slurred, and the voice from before returned. You brought me back. It wasn't Deeks this time. It was all of them. Every missing firefighter. Every ghost that returned burned and twisted. The door is open. The lights in the station flickered on, and every hallway filled with smoke. We grabbed our masks. Briggs tossed a spare to me. Get to the roof. The lookout hatch will hold the bay. But what's happening? I asked. He turned to me, eyes dark. The shade isn't just here to burn. It wants out. It's using the station as a gate. Jules added, there's something buried beneath the floor. Always has been. That's why the station was built here. To hold it down. Mark tossed me a flare. You'll know what to do when you get to the roof. I didn't want to go, but their faces told me this might be their last stand. I had to trust them. I ran through the east corridor, smoke curling up the walls, whispers riding the tendrils. Doors opened and closed on their own. I didn't look in. One wrong glance, and the fire finds your fear. I reached the ladder to the roof hatch and climbed, coughing hard. Once on top, I turned toward the forest and saw it. The ember shade was no longer in the trees. It was at the edge of the parking lot, 30 feet tall, body made of living fire flickering between human and beast, mouth like a furnace, eyes like dying stars. It stared at me, and then it spoke, not aloud but inside my skull. Burn with me. The air turned hot, too hot to breathe. My suit began to melt at the seams. I took out the flare Mark gave me. It had a note taped around it. Strike when it reaches the station. Aim for the siren tower. Light draws it. Fire traps it. I waited. I waited. The shade stepped forward. The trees ignited behind it. The ground smoked. The building groaned as pressure built. Then it passed under the siren tower. I lit the flare and threw it with everything I had. The flame arced beautifully, bouncing once off the roof before hitting the tower's rusted base. For one split second, nothing. Then, boom! A violent explosion rocked the entire ridge. The siren tower collapsed, sending shards of metal and sparks into the air. A secondary blast from inside the building followed. Briggs must have triggered the emergency fuel line. The fire roared like a living thing, and the ember shade screamed, not in pain, but in rage. Its form broke apart into streams of smoke and light, sucked back into the cracks of the earth beneath the burning station. The building sank in on itself. A vortex of ash spiraled into the air. And then, silence. I woke up 3 days later in Kalispell General Hospital. Burns on my arms, smoke inhalation damage, 3 cracked ribs. Jules was in the bed beside me, alive, quiet. Mark didn't make it. Harris was never found. Briggs, gone. No body, just a melted dog tag found near the engine bay. They told the public it was a gas leak, a freak electrical fire. They buried the truth under paperwork, but I know better. I still have the black notebook. It's scorched around the edges, the ink faded in places, but the last page is clear. Final rule, if the fire ever stops calling for you, run. That means it's already inside. I've taken a desk job now, overseeing training for new recruits. Every now and then, a young firefighter from a rural station in Montana sends me a strange note, a voice on the radio, a fire that didn't burn anything, a shadow watching from the woods. And I mail them a notebook, black, unmarked, with one sentence written on the first page: follow the rules or burn.